Hey folks, it's time for another easy open world build. Today's choice is Condition Renegade, one of my all-time favorite elite specializations. This build is based off the DPS build I made for the Guild Wars 2 wiki, so if you want to learn more about the basics of this build or double check some information, you can check out the written article or the complimentary video on the DPS rotation. Both links are in the description below. As usual for open world, we'll follow a particular priority list for survivability changes, starting from the DPS builds, for instance content. Gear is expensive unless you have legendary gear, so we'll adjust food and trades first. Conveniently, Renegade includes all the tools you might need to make yourself more survivable. The first major step to increase survivability is to stay on the shortbow weapon and legendary Renegade stance. That allows you to deal great damage from range, so you can kite dangerous enemies instead of face tanking their damage. When you play Renegade for a while, you'll notice that the Renegade abilities are friendly NPCs that will draw away aggro from you. While they can help you survive, they can also die, which is very sad for them. As a second step to increase survivability and increase your self-healing noticeably, use Devastation instead of Invocation. This will make you steal health from enemies via the effect Battle Scars. Battle Scars is a stacking effect that will make you steal health from enemies for every stack that you consume. These stacks are consumed whenever you hit an enemy with an attack. The most important trait in that context is Dance of Death. With this trait, every time you apply a stack of vulnerability to a foe, you also grant yourself one stack of Battle Scars. What we're gonna do is to abuse the synergy between Ice Razor's Ire, one of the Renegade abilities, and Dance of Death. Over its duration of 6 seconds, this applies 40 stacks of vulnerability, and not only that, it will consume the stacks on the subsequent hits, then healing you for every hit. On top of that, the effect Exposed Defenses will apply 5 stacks of vulnerability on the first attack after entering combat. This can be refreshed in combat by using an elite skill. With the trait Battle Scarred, you will also apply stacks of Battle Scars to yourself when you use a heal skill. In open world, it genuinely helps if you can cover most of the offensive and defensive buffs by yourself, so Might, Fury, Protection, Quickness and Alacrity. Covering Might and Fury is simple. You only need to use Vindication instead of Lasting Legacy to fully cover 25 stacks of Might on yourself. Since we are not using Invocation, we lose partial access to Fury. You can use Assassin's Presence to cover that. Up to 50% Fury uptime is covered by Endless Enmity. You can also use Thrill of Combat for another small persistent heal if you don't need Assassin's Presence. In terms of protection, you can use All for One. This applies protection every time you use a legendary Renegade ability, but it comes at the cost of your shortbow skills applying to one target only. Against bosses that's not a big deal, but I wouldn't recommend using it in general open world roaming. If you're looking to solo harder content, I can only recommend to make use of Jade protocols. These give 150 additional toughness, vitality, condi damage and power, as well as all boons aside from stability, resistance and resolution on entering combat. These effects can be pre-stacked by using an enchanted Snow Diamond tonic repeatedly when out of combat. They will fully cover protection and general roaming where you enter and exit combat frequently. In case you need frequent condi cleanses, since that's one of the weaknesses of this build, you can get a second shortbow. On the shortbow you can apply either a Superior Sigil of Generosity or a Superior Sigil of Purity. Both of these sigils will cleanse conditions in frequent intervals. If you don't have a legendary shortbow, you can look at Stardust. Stardust is a very cheap exotic shortbow that brings in additional survivability with its Celestial prefix. Finally, you can put a Superior Sigil of Draining on the second shortbow to abuse the combination with Dark Razor's Daring's frequent dazes. This heals you for 1k health for every daze applying to 5 targets. Dark Razor's Daring applies an area daze every 1 second, making you basically invincible for the time it runs. Note that this has a 3-second cooldown against bosses. If those changes are not comfortable enough for you, you can also decide to change your amulet and helmet to Celestial or Trailblazer. You can get cheap exotic pieces for those via the Ice Golem's Maw box and the Candy Corn amulet respectively. Make sure to put a black diamond or chunk of petrified Echovolt resin on the amulet, as it natively includes Berserkers on the upgrade. In order to craft the amulet, you will need at least a rank of 400 on the Jeweler crafting profession. And finally, you can use Survivability Food and a Kaka utility item for another minus 10% damage taken and 150 toughness. That's it for today. Feel free to like and subscribe for the YouTube algorithm. I hope this video was insightful for you and made you want to try Condition Renegade. See you next time and happy demon calling.